What's up, everyone? Sorry for the delay. Happy Football Friday, though. Getting this smoke out of here in Milwaukee. Great to be back talking USFL Championship tomorrow night. Going to be a super exciting game. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. We got some USFL awards to hand out and college football news, NFL news, some money getting exchanged, and then we'll pick the USFL championship and finish off with pretty lengthy, in-depth ACC season preview, going with the college theme now. Even though I got my Big Ten, Penn State stuff on, but that's all right. We'll do that next Friday. So let's start off with the USFL, the awards. Top three awards were given out this week. Offensive Player of the Year is Gamblers running back Mark Thompson. Thompson ending up a stellar season. 135 carries, 655 yards. Mind you, in 8 games, not 10. He missed the first two. 4.9 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns, 24 targets in the passing game, caught 15 for 90 yards. So excellent season for Mr. Thompson at the running back. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to get Houston in the playoffs. Also, not enough to get in the playoffs, but noteworthy season. Michigan Panthers linebacker Frank Ginda winning Defensive Player of the Year, led the league in tackles, 106 total tackles, solos, and assists combined. 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss, 3 picks, 2 forced fumbles, 5 pass deflections. That one was a little bit more of a competition. I thought you could have put in that conversation Mahler's linebacker Chiava Tazzino, 93 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 6 pass deflections, and a defensive touchdown. I think corner Mark Gilbert also with 4 picks, 14 pass deflections, 2 tackles for loss, 33 tackles, also could have been in the conversation. And then Breland Speaks, his teammate, also leading the league in sacks, 9 to go along with 54 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and a pass deflection. I think all three of those guys were worthy opponents at the Defensive Player of the Year voting for or against Frank Ginda there. But again, leading tackler in the league, excellent season for Frank Ginda. Unfortunately, Michigan wasn't in the playoffs. Or no, they did make the playoffs. My bad. They were in the North Division Championship. That's right. But not enough to make the championship game, I should say. And the MVP, of course, everyone knew this was coming. Stallions quarterback Alex Magoo, a spectacular season, unlike anything else we've seen in the last 2 years, or the first 2 years back of the USFL. 180 of 267, 67.4% completion, 2,095 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks, 70 carries, 403 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground, just 2 fumbles there. So a 25-7 touchdown to turnover ratio there. Excellent for Alex Magoo, leading the league's best team to a 9-2 record and a back-to-back USFL championship game appearances, looking to go back-to-back winning those appearances. College football news, we have some amendments to the student athlete betting rules. Division I legislative committee amending these punishments essentially. So one thing to note right off the bat, it's still prohibited to bet on all NCAA games by student athletes. Just cannot bet on any college sports in general. But if you do, if a student athlete is found to have engaged in activities to influence the outcome of games that they're involved in, or provide info to individuals involved in betting, they will face a potential permanent loss of eligibility. You're done. It's one strike and you're out, right? It's a pretty harsh ruling there, but it makes sense. We don't want point shaving. We want integrity to stay in the game, even with the commercialization rapidly increasing in Division One college athletics. Um, we still want that amateurism aspect and the integrity to be there. So I definitely understand that. And this also applies to betting on their own games or any other sports at their school. So that will result in a permanent loss of eligibility potentially. And then if they bet on their own sport but not their school, they can potentially lose half of their season. So 6 games for a college football player. I don't know any of the other season lengths. So, yeah, that's what I got for that one. And then all other betting violations, punishments will be based on the cumulative dollar amount of the bets. So I know they reference something like, between like $100 and $200 total would result in like a 10% loss of a season and whatnot from there. So it all depends on if you bet on college that's not your school, um, or your own sport, then it's variable, your punishment, anyways. NFL news: the NFLPA has a new executive director. It will be Lloyd Howell, replacing DeMaurice Smith as his contract expires in 2024. He announced when he signed his new extension in 2021 that this would be his last one. So Lloyd Howell takes over next year as the NFLPA executive director. He is a former CFO at Booz Allen Hamilton consulting firm and is also a trustee at Pennsylvania University. Um, so, yeah, good businessman to have. He has a business degree, MBA from Harvard, and engineering degree, I believe, from Penn. So, former Bears GM and current Falcons scout Ryan Pace, he has been promoted to director of player personnel with the Falcons. The Falcons also promoted director of player personnel Kyle Smith to assistant general manager. So a couple promotions there for some guys that have been in the game for quite a while. Ryan Pace, like I mentioned, former Bears GM. So making his way back up to the top of the personnel ladder. And the Texans, former Texans and Cardinals defensive end J.J. Watt, he is going to join CBS Sports as an NFL studio analyst this season. So interested to watch that. I know J.J. is a great guy, good personality, so should be a good time with him and Nate Burleson in studio. Suspensions. The NFL finally handed down the gambling suspensions and Cam Robinson suspension as well. So, as far as the gambling suspensions go, 3 players suspended for the year: Colts corner Isaiah Rodgers and linebacker Rashad Berry, free agent defensive tackle Demetrius Taylor, all suspended for the 2023 season for gambling on NFL games. Rodgers and Berry have since both been waived by the Indianapolis Colts. And Rodgers was actually pretty bad. His wagers, or one of his wagers, was apparently $1,000 prop bet on the over-under rushing yards on a Colts running back. So that is really terrible. Pretty bad there for Isaiah Rodgers. We'll see if he makes it back to the league next year or not. Forgot to say, the USFL, Daryl Johnston, the president there, Daryl Johnston, he said the USFL will not be expanding to more than 8 teams until they get their organizations into their home markets. Going to keep the hub format for 2024 with some adjustments. But back to the betting issues here with the NFL. Also getting suspended. Titans offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere suspended the first 6 games for betting on non-NFL games, but at the team facility. So there you go. That's a 6-gamer for Nicholas. And then I mentioned the NFL handed down its suspension for Jags offensive tackle Cam Robinson. He has been suspended the first 4 games for his PEDs violation. This voids the guaranteed money left on his contract, so it's an interesting situation. First-round pick Anton Harrison going to step into one of the 2 tackle spots along with former second-round pick Walker Little. The Patriots getting some business done this week. They extended 2 of their guys. Patriots wide receiver Devontae Parker signed a 3-year, $33 million extension, $14 million guaranteed. Great. I think that's a good deal for Parker there. And, of course, we have to get the cha-ching there with Parker's money. $11 million per year. That's excellent for him on a team that really doesn't have a lot of wide receiver. Also making some money, Patriots signing linebacker Jawan Bentley to a 2-year, $18.75 million max extension, $9 million fully guaranteed. So, yeah, again, a good deal for both sides, I think, and both guys get paid. USFL pick standings here. That's all the news I have. I didn't see anything else on the Twitter feed other than some NHL news. But USFL pick standings, we went 2-0. We all picked the Maulers to win the North. We all picked the Stallions to win the South. There, that is your USFL championship game this week. So I am now 10 games up, 10 games above 500. Mark is 4 games up. And Logan, great job, buddy. Back to 500. See if he can win this last game and get above 500 on this season. So here it is, the USFL championship matchup tomorrow night. The Pittsburgh Maulers, Birmingham Stallions in Canton, Ohio. Maulers coming in at 5-6, 9-2 for the Stallions. This is crazy. 7-point favorite for the Birmingham Stallions. They absolutely demolished New Orleans in the South Division Championship. And I took the points. I took the 7. I took the over. I just think there's nothing to stop this Birmingham offense. Alex Magoo is playing out of his mind currently, and they have everything rolling on that offense. It's going to be tough, and it's a good matchup, though. The thing is, they don't usually run the ball very well, or a lot, I should say. So Ricky Person and CJ Marable are going to have their hands full with Boogie Roberts there in the middle of that Maulers D-line. And, when they pass it, Davion Davis is going to have to face Mark Gilbert and Arnold Tarpley back there in the secondary, Kiava Tizino, Reuben Foster at the linebacker spot as well. So it's going to be a good matchup, I think. Jay Sternberger going up against Tizino and Foster. And Birmingham won by 4, I think, last time these two played. I think it's going to be a lot less close, and Birmingham runs away with this one and scores a lot of points like they did last week. Total is 46. Like I said, I'm going with the over. 44, like I said, last time these two played. But I just think Birmingham is going to score a lot of points, 30 maybe by themselves. They scored 47 last week, so give me the over in this game. 8 p.m. NBC. Super excited for this one, and should be an excellent game. Go Stallions, winning back-to-back. Let's get to the ACC preview here. Again, it's going to be pretty lengthy, but I think it'll go short in kind of an oxymoronic statement there. But here we go. So this is kind of how I have it, how I see the ACC shaking out. I do have Clemson winning the ACC again this year. Danny Potter likes our no more 4th and 51ers there with the Houston Gamblers. Unfortunately, no, Danny, we don't have that anymore. But this is kind of how I see it shaking out in the ACC. Not exactly based off the records that I picked on the games, but those records are pretty rough estimates, anyways. I have Clemson winning the ACC, though. Florida State finishing second in the ACC championship. Nice of the ACC to go along with the trend this year. Everyone is nixing the division format, so they did that as well. Don't have to worry about that. And putting the best two teams in, which I think is Clemson and Florida State. I like Miami to finish third. I think they got a great transfer portal, couple additions there. And also, Danny likes Pittsburgh in the USFL championship game there. But I also think Miami with Tyler Van Dyke in another year of development. They got a bunch of guys returning that were key contributors last year. And, I just think Miami's got a good shot at it this year. North Carolina, Duke are the next two. I kind of like Duke better than UNC just based off the overall team. Great season last year for Riley Leonard. Talk more about him in a second. Drake May, of course, returning for UNC. Syracuse is kind of an outlier. They might not finish even close to this high, but I like Garrett Schrader at quarterback. It's tough to play in the Dome as well, as Clemson will find out. But I like Syracuse there. Louisville, total turnaround with the new head coach, and I don't know why the coach is blanking in my mind, but they got a lot of transfers. The transfer portal was paramount in Louisville this year. Jeff Brom, that's right, Jeff Brom, new head coach there coming over from Purdue. But yeah, it was a lot of transfers in and out, and Louisville could surprise a lot of people this year, I think. Georgia Tech is the next one. Wake Forest. Those two are similar. After Louisville, it was tough to pick which teams were going to, make up the tiers there. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, UNC, and Pitt, I think, are all similar in terms of where they're at team building wise. So those four could change. And then Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Boston College, I definitely think those are the bottom three teams in the conference. But we'll see what happens. So I'm going to start off with Clemson here. So returning key players returning for them. Running back Will Shipley, first team All-American, All-ACC. Wide receiver Antonio Williams, honorable mention, All-ACC. Offensive lineman Will Putnam, third team All-ACC. Offensive lineman Walker Parks and Marcus Tate, both honorable mention, All-ACC. Defensive tackle Tyler Davis was a first teamer. Defensive lineman Ruke Orhoro, honorable mention. Linebackers Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Barrett Carter, both honorable mention. Corners Sheridan Jones and Nate Wiggins, honorable mentions, as were both safeties Andrew Mukuba and Jalen Phillips. So a lot of players returning for Clemson that won all conference honors last year or honorable mention. Bunch of players leaving, though. Of course, Clemson is one of the bigger schools for the draft. So, quarterback DJ Uiagalelei transferred to Oregon State. Running back Kobe Pace transferred. Wide receiver Joseph Ngata went to the NFL, as did tight end Davis Allen. He was a third-team All-Conference. Offensive lineman Jordan McFadden to the NFL, first-teamer. Defensive lineman Miles Murphy and KJ Henry and Brian Breesy, all to the NFL, all first team, all conference. Linebacker Trent Simpson to the NFL, third teamer, and then kicker BT Potter to the NFL. He was a second team, all conference. And Clemson did not have any key transfers in this offseason. I like Clemson winning the conference. Like I said, 11-1 for me, 7-1 in conference play. Their schedule is pretty decent. At Duke on a Monday nighter, week 1, they win that one. They win at home against Charleston Southern, win against FAU, win at home against Florida State. That's the big one, week 4. They lose at the Dome at Syracuse. They struggle going up to Syracuse every time they do it. So I'm going to give them a loss at Syracuse. They win at home against Wake Forest. So 5-1 going into the week 7 bye. They win at Miami, at NC State, at home against Notre Dame. Could be a good game there. At home against Georgia Tech, at home against UNC, and at South Carolina. They win all those to finish 11-1. So, yeah, Clemson wins the ACC. Let's go to Wake. The dark horse that everyone thinks is possibly a playoff team this year, with Florida State returning quarterback Jordan Travis, second team all conference, running back Trey Benson, second team, running back Lawrence Toafili, wide receiver Johnny Wilson, second teamer, offensive lineman Robert Scott, second team, offensive lineman Dimitri Emmanuel, third team, offensive lineman Maurice Hurst, that's the defensive tackle that plays in the NFL. Maurice Smith, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Jared Verse, he's their stud on defense, first teamer. Defensive lineman Fabian Lovett, honorable mention, as was linebacker Tatum Bethune. Linebacker Kalen DeLoach, defensive back Akeem Dent, defensive back Bernardo Green was an honorable mention. Losses, running back Trayshawn Ward transferred out, honorable mention, all conference. Wide receiver Pokey Wilson is in the NFL. Wide receiver Micah Pittman transferred, honorable mention last year. Offensive lineman Dylan Gibbons to the NFL, first team. Defensive lineman Robert Cooper in the NFL, honorable mention. And safety Jamie Robinson into the NFL, first team all conference there. They got a couple good transfers, especially on offense. Wide receiver Keon Coleman coming over from Michigan State. Massive receiver, him and Johnny Dixon. They're going to tower over everyone this year, along with the next guy, tight end Jaheim Bell from South Carolina. So they have a lot of size on this offense. Going to give Jordan Travis a big catch radius to throw to for each guy. On defense, they also got a couple good transfers. Defensive lineman Braden Fisk from Central Michigan, all-MAC performer, and then defensive back Fentrell Cypress in intra-conference transfer there from Virginia, all ACC last year. And as far as their schedule sets up for the Seminoles, week 1, they win a home game, technically. It's on a Sunday, week 1, at Camping World Stadium in Orlando. They win at home against Southern Miss. They win at Boston College. They lose at Clemson. So 3-1 going in the week 5 bye. Pretty early there, but they come out 4 straight. Win at home against Virginia Tech, at home against Syracuse, at home against Duke, at Wake Forest. They lose at Pitt. I don't know why I think that Pitt game is a trap one. It's tough to win in Pittsburgh, and Pat Narduzzi will have them up for that one for sure, because Florida State's probably going to be coming in there with a great a low number beside their name. They win the rest of their games, though, at home against Miami, at home against North Alabama, and at Florida in the Sunshine State Showdown. I think Florida State's a lot better than Florida is currently. So 10-2, 6-2 in conference play. That makes them finish second in the conference. Probably not enough to get into the playoff with 2 losses. Let's move on to North Carolina. And returning starters here, or key players returning: quarterback Drake May, first team all conference. Tight end Bryson Nesbitt, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Corey Gaynor, honorable mention. Linebacker Cedric Gray, first team. Linebacker Power Eccles, honorable mention. And punter Ben Kiernan, third team. Losses: quarterback Jacoby Criswell transferred out. Wide receiver Josh Downs to the NFL, first team. Wide receiver Antoine Green to the NFL, third team. Offensive lineman Asim Richards to the NFL, third team. And corners Tony Grimes and Storm Duck both transferred. And they got 3 key transfers here. Wide receiver Devontae Walker from Kent State, good player from the MAC. Wide receiver Nate McCollum in from Georgia Tech. And offensive lineman Willie Lampkin from Coastal Carolina, all Sun Belt performer there. UNC, I have going 8-4, 5-3 in conference play. They lose at South Carolina at Bank of America Stadium, where the Panthers play in Charlotte week 1. Then they win 4 straight at home against Appalachian State, at home against Minnesota, at Pitt. Their week 5 bye, so they go 3-1 into that. They win at home against Syracuse. They lose at home against Miami. They win at home against Virginia. They win at Georgia Tech. They win versus Campbell. They lose at home versus Duke. They lose at Clemson. And then they win at NC State to finish the year off 8-4. It's a tough one. The Duke-Miami game and Clemson games, obviously the marquee ones. At South Carolina, or the South Carolina game also should be a tough one. Shane Beamer's got the Gamecocks rolling, though, after the end of last year. Let's move on to Pitt. Of course, these I'm rolling through these in the finish order from last year in terms of overall record, not conference finish. So Pitt here, couple guys returning, not much, but offensive lineman Matt Goncalves and offensive lineman Jake Cradle, both third team All ACC. Defensive back MJ Devonshire, second teamer, second team All Conference as a special teams player. And defensive back Marquise Williams, honorable mention. Key losses, though, a lot of them. Quarterback Keaton Slovis transferred. Running back Israel Abanaconda went to the NFL, first team All ACC. Running back Vincent Davis transferred. Wide receiver Jared Wayne to the NFL, second teamer. Offensive lineman Marcus Minor to the NFL, first team. Defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey in the NFL, first team. Defensive lineman Deslin Alexander in the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Servassier Dennis into the NFL, first team. Safeties Eric Hallett, the second, and Brandon Hill, both to the NFL. Hallett, a second team All Conference. Hill, a honorable mention. And just 2 transfers to speak of for the Pitt Panthers here, and it's at quarterback. I mentioned Keaton Slovis transferred out. They got 2 quarterbacks in, one from Penn State, quarterback Christian Veilleux. We'll see. He's probably going to be the backup because Boston College quarterback Phil Dracovic also coming in to Pittsburgh. I like him to be the starter and win that job there. Unfortunately, not as much in terms of pieces around him after a couple of the draft losses and transfers. 7-5 here for the Pitt Panthers. 5-3 in conference. They win at home versus Wofford. Week 1, they lose at home against Cincinnati. They win at West Virginia in the backyard brawl. They lose at home against UNC. They win at Virginia Tech. Go into the bye, week 6 bye at 3-2. They lose at home against Louisville. They win at Wake Forest. They lose at Notre Dame. They win at home against FSU. They win at Syracuse. They win at home against Boston College. And they lose at Duke to end the year there. Boston College game on a Thursday night, week 12, late one there. So, yeah, Pat Narduzzi, bowl eligible once again. Decent season for Pitt there. Let's head on to Duke, who I really believe in this year. The Duke Blue Devils, I think, are gonna shock some people for the second year in a row under David Cutcliffe. So, key returning players. Quarterback Riley Leonard, honorable mention. Wide receiver Jalen Calhoun, third team. Offensive lineman Graham Barton, first team. Offensive lineman Jacob Monk, honorable mention. Defensive tackle Dwayne Carter, second team. Safety Brandon Johnson, honorable mention. And punter Porter Wilson, honorable mention last year. Only a couple all ACC losses. One was linebacker Shaka Hayward. He's in the NFL, honorable mention last year. And safety Darius Joyner to the NFL, third teamer last season. And just one key transfer, corner Al Blades Jr. coming over from Miami should help that defense out a bit. 9-3, 6-2 in conference play for the Duke Blue Devils. Lose at home against Clemson on Monday night, week 1. They win at home against Lafayette. They win at home against Northwestern. They win at UConn. They lose at home against Notre Dame. So 3-2 going into the week 6 bye. I have them winning at home against NC State. Week 7, week 8, they lose at FSU. They win at Louisville. Week 9, they win at home against Wake Forest, Thursday nighter. Week 10, week 11, they win at UNC. They win at Virginia. And then they win at home against Pitt to finish the season. 9-3 for Duke. So I think should flip Duke and UNC there. I really believe in Duke this year for some reason. It's pretty much Riley Leonard, but also I just think that they can get it done. Let's head on to Louisville, the new head coach. Jeff Brom there at Louisville. The Cardinals returning just a couple starters. Key guys here, offensive lineman Brian Hudson, second team all-conference. Offensive lineman Renato Brown, honorable mention. And defensive lineman Ashton Gillott, honorable mention. They lost a ton from last year. Quarterback Malik Cunningham to the NFL. Running back Tyon Evans to the NFL, honorable mention. Running back Travion Cooley transferred. Wide receiver Tyler Hudson to the NFL, second team. Wide receiver Braden Smith transferred. Tight end Marshawn Ford to the NFL, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Caleb Chandler to the NFL, second team. Defensive lineman Yaya Diaby in the NFL, third team. Linebacker Yasir Abdullah to the NFL, first team. Linebacker Momo Sanogo to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Monty Montgomery transferred. Corner Keitrell Clark to the NFL, third teamer. And then safety Nicario Harper, kicker James Turner, and punter Mark Vassett all transferred out. but they got a lot of transfers in as well. So quarterbacks, Jack Plummer from Cal and Harrison Bailey from UNLV, formerly of Tennessee as well. I think Plummer's probably going to win the job there. Running back Isaac Garendo from Wisconsin. Love that guy. Getting him from Wisco was a big move for Louisville to replace Travion Cooley there. So he's going to be needed in this backfield this season. Wide receiver Jamari Thrash from Georgia State. Excellent all Sun Belt receiver there. Wide receiver Joey Gatewood from UCF, former quarterback, has switched back and forth from wide receiver to quarterback in his career. Now back at wide receiver after going from Auburn to UCF. And defensive lineman Jeffrey Clark from Georgia State. Excellent player there. Couple corners, Storm Duck from Penn State and Marcus Washington from Georgia. Storm Duck, hopefully he sticks in Louisville. I think he should. Transferred from North Carolina to Penn State, never played a down for the Nittany Lions, but finished up the spring semester and headed to Louisville. And they also got safety Cam Kelly from Virginia, so I think their back end is going to be helped out by those three guys there. I have the Cardinals going 7-5, though. 5-3 in conference at Georgia Tech on a Friday in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. They win that one. They win at home versus Murray State on a Thursday night. They win at Indiana, win at home against Boston College. They lose at NC State on a Friday night. They lose at home against Notre Dame. They win at Pitt. Week 8 bye. They go in feeling pretty good, 5-2. And then it's a losing record the rest of the way. At home against Duke, they lose. They win at home against Virginia Tech, at home against Virginia on a Thursday night. They lose at Miami, and then they lose at home against Kentucky in the Bluegrass showdown there. So, pretty decent season for the Cardinals. Not the greatest, but not bad either. Bowl eligible in Jeff Brom's first year. Let's move on to the Wolfpack, NC State, or as Mark likes to say, the team with a mascot that has a pot on the top of its head. Crock pot. So, NC State, they have just a couple guys returning from the all-conference honors. Offensive lineman Timothy McKay, honorable mention. Linebacker Peyton Wilson, honorable mention. And corner Aiden White, first team all-ACC. I love Peyton Wilson. I think he's going to be in the second or first team this year in conference, all-conference honors. They also were a team that got gouged by NFL and transfer portal alike. Quarterback Devin Leary and Ben Finley both transferring. Running back Demi Sumo Karngbe transferred out. Wide receiver Thayer Thomas, honorable mention. He went to the NFL. Wide receiver Devin Carter transferred. Offensive lineman Chandler Zabala to the NFL, first teamer. Offensive lineman Grant Gibson to the NFL, first team. Defensive tackle Corey Durden to the NFL, third team. Linebacker Drake Thomas in the NFL, second team. Corner Tyler Baker-Williams to the NFL. He was an honorable mention. Safety Tanner Engel to the NFL, second team. And kicker Christopher Dunn to the NFL, first team all-conference there. They did get a quarterback back, though, in the transfer portal. Quarterback Brennan Armstrong coming over from Virginia, the left-handed gunslinger there. Not sure it's going to make enough. That's why I have NC State so low, because of all the losses that they had on offense. Sumo Karngbe and the receivers as well, Thayer Thomas, Devin Carter. I think those are going to be massive losses on that offense. So it's going to be tough for Brendan Armstrong to succeed with unproven playmakers. I had the Wolfpack going 5-7, 2-6 in conference play. They win at UConn on a Thursday night, Week 1, they lose at home against Notre Dame. They win at home against VMI. They win at Virginia on a Friday night. They lose at home against Louisville on a Friday night. They win at home against Marshall. They lose at Duke. Going into the Week 8 bye, they are 4-3. It does not get better from there. They lose 4 of their last 5. Lose at home against Clemson. Lose at home against Miami. Lose at Wake Forest. They win at Virginia Tech, and they lose at home against UNC. So 5-7, that is how you get there, Wolfpack. Maybe you can find a bowl game even with a losing record. Going on to Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons, they got some stuff returning. Running back Justice Ellison, third team all-conference. Wide receiver Jamal Banks, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Devontae Gordon, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Michael Juergens, honorable mention. As was defensive lineman Jasheen Davis. Really like Justice Ellison coming into this year. Again, another team with a lot of guys lost. Quarterback Sam Hartman transferred out, third team all-conference. Quarterback Brett Griffiths also transferred. Running back Christian Turner and Quentin Cooley both transferred. Wide receiver A.T. Perry to the NFL, first team. Offensive lineman Sean McGinn to the NFL, second team. Offensive lineman Loic Ngassam Naya to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive tackle Kobe Turner to the NFL, third team. Defensive tackle Rondell Bothroyd transferred. He was an honorable mention pick. And linebacker Ryan Smenda Jr. to the NFL as an honorable mention. And they really didn't have anything in the transfer portal to note. So it really is scary there with the amount of stuff lost at quarterback, running back, and offensive line. A.T. Perry's a big guy to fill his shoes. So it's going to be tough for Wake Forest. Not sure who their quarterback's going to be. We'll see. But it's not looking that pretty for the Demon Deacons this year. 5-7, though, is not bad. 3-5 in conference. So they finish ahead, actually, of NC State, which is what I have on the board. They win at home against Elon Thursday night. Week 1, they lose at home against Vandy. Week 2, they win at Old Dominion. They lose at home against Georgia Tech. So 2-2 into the Week 5 bye. They lose at Clemson. They win at Virginia Tech. They win at home against Pitt. They lose at home against FSU. They lose at Duke on a Thursday night. They win at home against NC State. They lose at Notre Dame, and they lose at Syracuse to finish up 5-7, 3-5 in conference play. So not the worst. It could be worse, and it might be depending on how their quarterback play shakes out. But that's how I see the Demon Deacons season, 5-7 for them. Heading on to the Orange, Syracuse. Not much returning in terms of all conference play anyways. Tight end Arande Gadsden, the second, first teamer. Linebacker Marlo Wax, also honorable mention there. Couple big losses for them to the NFL this year. Running back Sean Tucker, second team all conference. Offensive lineman Matthew Bergeron, second team. Linebacker Michael Jones, third teamer. Corner Deuce Chestnut transferred as an honorable mention player. Corner Garrett Williams to the NFL, honorable mention, as was safety Jihad Carter. He transferred out as an honorable mention player. No key transfers for Syracuse. Again, I am banking on Garrett Schrader and that Syracuse defense and the home field advantage that Syracuse gets. I think that that this Orange team could surprise some people and win some games this year for sure. So Syracuse, I have 9-3, 5-3 in conference. Yeah, it's probably way too high for the Orange, but it's all right. I believe in Garrett Strader. That's just me. So they win week 1 at home against Colgate. They win at home against Western Michigan. They lose at Purdue. They win at home against Army. They win at home against Clemson, like I mentioned earlier. They lose at UNC and at Florida State. So into the bye week, they are 4-3, feeling all right, but they win 5 straight to end the year at Virginia Tech on a Thursday night, at home against Boston College on a Friday night, at home against Pitt, at Georgia Tech, and at home against Wake Forest. Shakes out really well at the end of the season after the bye for Syracuse. So 9-3, it's pretty high standards for the Orange, but I like them. Give it to me, Garrett Strader, and go win some games. Let's move on to the Yellow Jackets, Georgia Tech. Just one all-conference player returning, defensive back LaMiles Brooks, third team all-conference last year. Bunch of guys moving on from Tech. Quarterback Jeff Sims transferred, as did Tyson Fomachan. Running back Hassan Hall went to the NFL as an honorable mention. Wide receiver Nate McCollum transferred as an honorable mention. Defensive lineman Keon White to the NFL, third team. Linebacker Ayinde Ely, second team. Linebacker Charlie Thomas, third team. And corner Zamari Walton transferred as an honorable mention player. They got a couple guys, really solid players in the transfer portal. Quarterback Haynes King out of Texas A&M, running back Travion Cooley from Louisville, wide receiver Dominic Blaylock from Georgia, and linebacker Andre White Jr. from Texas A&M. So that's why I kind of like Georgia Tech this year as a sleeper team with Haynes King at quarterback, Cooley at running back, Blaylock at wide receiver, White at linebacker. But they lost a lot, especially on the defensive side. So their record does not shake out well, even though I have them above the likes of Wake Forest and whatnot. Their record actually shakes out behind both Wake and NC State and Pitt. 4-8, 2-6 in the conference. They lose at home against Louisville on a Friday night in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. They win at home against South Carolina State. They lose at Ole Miss. They lose at Wake Forest. They win at home against Bowling Green. They lose at Miami. So week 7 bye. They are 2-4. Not very pretty there. Doesn't get much better. 2-4 the rest of the way as well. At home against Boston College, week 8, they win that one. They lose at home against UNC. They win at UVA. They lose at Clemson. They lose at home against Syracuse, and they lose against Georgia at home as well. So, yeah, 2-6, 4-8 overall there. But it's not bad. I think Georgia Tech could surprise some people depending on how Haynes King works out and the other couple transfers that I mentioned. Move on to Miami. Miami is an interesting team. I think not a lot of people are talking about them in this conference this year because they have some solid players returning. Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback, like I mentioned, but also running back Henry Parrish Jr., third team all-conference. Offensive lineman Jalen Rivers, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Akeem Mesidor, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Leonard Taylor, the third, honorable mention. Safety Cam Kitchens, first teamer. Kicker Andre Sporagalis, honorable mention as well. Losses, quarterback Jake Garcia transferred, as did running back Jalen Knighton. Tight end Will Mallory went to the NFL, second team. Offensive lineman DJ Scaife Jr., honorable mention. Corner Tyreek Stevenson, third team. Corner Al Blades Jr. transferred, and punter Lou Headley to the NFL, first team all-conference last year. Miami got a couple solid players, a couple from Alabama, but the first guy, running back A.J. Allen from Nebraska, I think he's going to bring some nastiness to that running back room and help them out in the ground game for Mario Cristobal and company. The Alabama guys, wide receiver Tyler Harrell and offensive lineman Javion Cohen there. I think both guys are going to contribute this year, especially Harrell, because Van Dyke needs some help at the receiver position. I think he's going to be a good one there. I have Miami 9-3, 6-2 in conference play, tying them with Duke for third place. They win at home against Miami, Ohio on a Friday night, week 1. They lose at home against Texas A&M. Still think A&M's better. They win at home against Bethune-Cookman on Thursday, week 3. They win at Temple, 3-1 into the week 5 bye. They win at home against Georgia Tech. They win at UNC. They lose at home against Clemson. They win at home against UVA. They win at NC State. They lose at Florida State. They win at home against Louisville, and they win at Boston College on a Friday, week 13 there. That's how we get to 9-3. Really like Miami. Excited for the Hurricanes. Tyler Van Dyke, hopefully he can develop and not kind of blunder like he did down the stretch last season. Let's go to the Cavaliers, Virginia. Couple guys returning. Defensive tackle Aaron Falmui, honorable mention. Defensive end Chico Bennett, honorable mention. And punter Daniel Sparks, second teamer last year. But key losses, quarterback Brennan Armstrong transferred. Wide receiver Keaton Thompson to the NFL, third teamer. Wide receiver Billy Kemp, the fourth, transferred. Linebacker Nick Jackson transferred, second teamer last year. He's a massive loss in the middle of that defense. Corner Anthony Johnson to the NFL, first teamer. Corner Fentrell Cypress transferred as a second teamer. And safety Cam Kelly transferred as well. Transfers in, they got some decent guys, though. Quarterback Tony Muskett from Monmouth step up in competition, but pretty solid player there for Monmouth. Running back Kobe Pace comes over from Clemson. I think he's going to have to be their leading rusher probably for the Cavs. Wide receiver Malik Washington comes over from Northwestern. I really like him. And then offensive lineman Jimmy Christ comes over from Penn State. Of course, Penn State, solid offensive line school, as is all the Big Ten schools. So, Virginia, I have them going 4-8, 2-6 in the conference, tying with Georgia Tech there. They lose at Tennessee and Nashville. I think they're going to get smacked in that one. They lose. I had them losing at home against James Madison. JMU is powerhouse already, just in there, going into their second season in FBS. They win at Maryland on Friday night there. They lose at home against NC State on Friday night. They win at Boston College. They win at home against William & Mary, so they go 3-3 into the week 7 bye. Not pretty down the stretch, though, losing at UNC, at Miami. They win at home against Georgia Tech. They lose at Louisville on a Thursday night. They lose at home against Duke, and they lose at home against Virginia Tech. I'm actually going to make it 3-9 because I think they're going to lose against Maryland. Talia Tagovailoa is still there, I believe. So, yeah, I'm going to have them losing at Maryland. Going into College Park's tough place anyways. So 3-9, actually, for the Virginia Cavaliers. Tough season, but, yeah, they got to get better at the quarterback position specifically. Let's go to their cross-state rival in Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. So, couple all ACC guys here. Wide receiver Tucker Holloway, honorable mention at the special teams player position. Corner Mansour Delaney, also honorable mention. Losses: quarterback Jason Brown transferred, as did running back Keyshawn King. Wide receiver Kayla Smith medically retired as an honorable mention player. Tight end Dallin Wright transferred. Offensive lineman Silas DeZanti to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Taiwan Garbutt to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Dax Hollifield to the NFL, honorable mention. And safety Shamari Connor went to the NFL as well. Couple transfers in. Quarterback Kyron Drones from Baylor. He's got to be the starter, really. They don't have a lot other than that. Wide receiver Ali Jennings from Old Dominion. Really like him. And then corner Derek Canteen from Georgia Southern. Excellent corner from the Sun Belt as well. I think all three should contribute a lot this season. It actually turned out pretty well for Virginia Tech. Based off their schedule, I don't know why. I think they're going to do better than many of the teams that I said they weren't going to do better, or where I have them ranked anyways. 6-6, 3-5 in conference play. They win at home against Old Dominion. They lose at home against Purdue. They win at Rutgers. They win at Marshall. They lose at home against Pitt. At FSU, they lose. They win at home against Wake Forest. Week 8 bye. They go into that one 4-3. They lose at home against Syracuse on Thursday night. They lose at Louisville. They win at Boston College. They lose at home against NC State. And they win at Virginia to end the season. So I don't know what it is. 6-6, pretty solid for the Hokies here. And the last team to cover is Boston College. I have them finishing as the last team in conference play as they did last year. But it's not all bad. It'll be okay, Eagles. Returning for them, defensive end Donovan Ezeruaku. Second teamer last year. Linebacker Vinny DePalma, honorable mention. Defensive back Elijah Jones, honorable mention. Losses, quarterback Phil Dracovic is the massive one. They really don't have a quarterback to supplant him. Wide receiver Zay Flowers to the NFL, first teamer, also just tremendous loss there. Wide receiver Jalen Gill transferred out. Defensive tackle Chibueze Onwuka to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive back Josh DeBerry transferred as an honorable mention, and safety Jaden Woodbay to the NFL, honorable mention as well. They did get a couple playmakers, though, on offense. Running back Kai Robichaux from Western Kentucky, wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe from UCF. Both players ultra explosive. Really excited to watch them. Unfortunately, don't know what the quarterback situation is. So really, I cannot pick a lot of wins for Boston College this year. However, 3-9, 0-8 in conference play. They do get a couple wins to start the year versus NIU and at home against Holy Cross. They lose at home against Florida State, at Louisville, at home against Virginia, at Army. 2-4 going into the bye week. So it's not terrible. Doesn't get a lot better, though. They lose at Georgia Tech. They win at home against UConn. Maybe I should add that one as a loss, though. UConn got a lot better last year, finishing 6-6, I think. They lose at Syracuse on a Friday night. They lose at home against Virginia Tech. They lose at Pitt on a Thursday night, and then they lose at home against Miami on a Friday night. So 3-9 for your Boston College Eagles there. Not great season up in Boston. So that is how I have it shaking out in the ACC. Just to recap the actual records, not how I have it on the screen, but how I picked the games. 11-1 for Clemson as your ACC champion. 10-2 for Florida State, probably New Year's Six Bowl there. 9-3 for Miami. Hurricanes having a great season there. 9-3 for Duke, also excellent season for the Duke Blue Devils. 9-3 as well for North Carolina, but 5-3 in conference. That's why they finished 5th. And then the next team I have 8-4, or no, 9-3 for Syracuse, I should say. That is the Orange, 9-3, 5-3 in conference. 8-4 for North Carolina is your 6th place team. 7-5 for Pittsburgh is your 7th place team. 7-5 for Louisville, also tied with Pitt there. 5-3 in conference. So they could be 7th, 8th, whatever. Next team is Virginia Tech, surprisingly enough. 6-6 in 9th. In 10th place, I have Wake Forest, I believe, 5-7, 3-5 in conference. In 11th place, 5-7 is North Carolina State, NC State at 5-7, 2-6 in conference. 12th place goes to Georgia Tech, 4-8, 2-6 in conference. 13th is Virginia, 3-9, 2-6 in conference. And last place is your 3-9 Boston College Golden Eagles there. That is how it shakes out in the ACC, or how I see it. Some surprises like Syracuse in there and whatnot. I will post it all on our social media later this week or weekend, and you'll be able to see the full recap there. But that is the show for today. Thank you all for watching. Letting me ramble about the ACC for however long I went. But don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, FAA_bets as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, also Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc., and TikTok at Football Addicts Anon. Next Wednesday, we're actually going to have Wednesday because next Tuesday is 4th of July. So we'll have a show on Wednesday next week talking off-season week 1, and we'll just be rolling through the news segment and continuing our conference previews, Big Ten previews next weekend. I will be at home, so hopefully the Wi-Fi is good, and we will see you next week. Or I should say next Friday, Big Ten preview. Wednesday's show, though, we will be talking AAC, American Athletic Conference, bunch of changes in that one, and very excited to talk to you about that on Wednesday. Happy 4th of July, everyone, and we'll see you back on Wednesday.